Seems good. All right, let's get started.
Ow.
Hello. Welcome to episode 219 of the Super Weapon Podcast, most overpowered podcast on the internet. It's your boy Darius the Artist, and as always, got my co-host DC here with me today.
What up, though? Guess who's back in the building,
Looking
baby? By
looking
any
a
means
little
necessary.
looking a little different today, man.
Looking a little stretched up. Wait, that ain't right. But
Oh
he's
man.
looking a little face looking a little ET-ish here, huh?
Yeah, man. It's good to be back though. For those of you guys who, if you guys don't know us, outside of the podcast, DC's internet's been under construction for a while, and hoping anyway that
Monday.
you'll have connection to the outside world again soon, man. I know it's probably been pretty stressful.
Monday.
But
Actually, you know what's crazy? Now, like, I think the only thing it's just two concerns. Like, I just wanted to podcast and study.
mhm.
But like outside of that, like at first, I mean, I was pissed off, but then I don't know. I just been kind of low key having a little bit of fun without the internet. Like I've read like three, four books.
Nice.
I've been
Did it
I've
take you
been
back to
doing
the
like,
time before the internet? Because we don't really have that much
dude,
anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
like I said, if I wasn't studying and if we didn't have this podcast, I might save myself a few bucks. I might go a year, just saved $100 something. Like, I was like, because I mean, I can go to work and I have the internet there, then I could like use my hotspot or my phone if I really need to get on the net like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But because of what we do, I do need internet access. But I just take everything as a sign. I just feel like this is just God's way of just helping me recenter, refocus because I've had time to sit down and look over some stuff for the 2025 year and
Yeah.
things that I've accomplished last year and things that I want to get done this year. It's given me time to sit down with myself, so to speak. So it's been a blessing in disguise a little bit, but I do need my net back, and hopefully, you know, I've spoke with AT&T corporate and they didn't gave me all these vouchers and discounts and
Yep.
they've been I've been like on their ass. I'm not gonna lie, I flamed up on them. So they didn't have people from corporate call and they're like, yeah, basically from what I'm getting is they don't have enough techs to keep up with all the stuff that's going on. So
Wow.
yeah, they'll be out here Monday at 11. They gotta rewire my fiber optic, like, cause I stay in an apartment, so they have to like wire it through my neighbors. So I had to kind of get with him to make sure that they have access to the inside of his house. Um, and
That's
it's just been a
insane.
lot. It's been a lot, but this is not an internet podcast. This is a gaming podcast.
Nah, I mean it's good to talk about these things, man. Especially,
I mean, I
you
guess
know,
we gotta let the people know where we've been. So,
yeah. And
but
I think that's cool that you talked about just recentering. Like, I think that's a pretty big theme for a lot of people this year. Honestly, I mean, it has been for me. We kind of
mhm.
joked about how uh, January was the longest month uh, of the
They
start of
said
the new
they said
year.
January was a whole year,
Yeah, it seemed like it was such a long time, man, and
and so much shit happened.
yeah, and I was gonna say that too. Like, it's very rare that we as like people nowadays get to unplug from just the amount of noise that typically happens, especially, and I'm not just talking about like, the major stuff that's been happening throughout the year, but just the amount of information that's thrown in your face every day is pretty crazy. So it's good to see
Yeah,
that
it's
you
been a
you
good
know
reset. It's
yeah.
been a good reset, man. It got me focused on, um, to say the least, is it's got me focused on what matters. Like,
Yeah.
I even looked up like some juicing things that I want to do for this cleanse
Nice.
because I got to like refocus back on my health because my blood pressure is getting back high again. So, got to focus on that because we're
Yeah.
getting older here and it's a lot of stuff, man. Like I've been messing around with recipes. I've been making the best of this time. Like I've been doing a lot of stuff, and it makes you realize, like, damn, does the net consume that much of your life? Because I'm looking at the
Yeah.
stuff that I'm doing. I'm like, why the hell am I doing all this? I could have did this with the net. Like, so it pretty much let me know that I need to do better time management.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
Agreed, man.
yeah,
I'm
there's a
right there with
lot
you.
of stuff that had me like, I was like, oh man, because I feel like I get so much done without having the internet. So it makes me think, like, what the hell was I doing when I had the internet?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, 100%, man. That's you don't realize how much time you use or lose, I guess, when you're on social media or just on the internet as a whole. I mean, even if you're doing something like good, quote unquote, for
yeah,
yourself,
because I
like,
know a lot of stuff that I do, like I be editing and I be looking at tutorials and stuff like that. But even with that being said, like there still has to be an equal balance.
yeah,
Like,
100%.
'cause I'm talking about, like, dude, I rearranged my whole house. Like, I'm just like doing all kinds of small little projects here and there. And it's only been like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm doing like all this stuff and I feel like so accomplished. So
That's
it's like
awesome, man.
Monday when I do get the internet back, it's gonna be like I'm thinking of having like a designated time.
Yeah, I think that's good. And honestly, man, like I think having these talks is good too on the pod, because it helps probably other people and it helps us kind of we don't there's not enough talk about like health and just life stuff in general. Hey, Winnie, how you doing, man?
Howdy,
Winnie
Weenie.
and Winnie said in chat we were reading gaming magazines and instruction manuals back in the day. Yeah, yeah, we as a people read, our generation read a lot more growing up and my wife in chat said, "Yeah, we do got to get back in the gym." Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of looking at that too, and I really do feel like this
Oh,
year.
Saturdays we can have gym parties.
Hey,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down. Like, I really
Study
just,
parties.
I feel like this
Contact with the
year.
people too.
Yeah, yeah,
Like contact with people if it's a study group, if we just go out to the park, throw the football, like I just gotta escape like the norm. Like you
hmm
I think we get stuck in these just I think we get stuck in the grind. Like, of course, you want to work hard, make your life better, and all this stuff. But
yeah,
at the same time, you got to stop and, like, you got to stop and, like, kind of enjoy yourself to a certain extent and reset. Like, it's just really just like a reset, man,
hmm
you know? And that's how I feel now. That's why I look at this. I'm like I said, the first, like, maybe couple of days, I was kind of pissed off because they came out here, they're doing all this stuff.
yeah,
And I was just like, yo, like, why is this so difficult? And I'm getting pissed off. And then, like, after a couple of days, I was just like, you know what? I started like reading my book, just coming home, and like, it's hard to explain, but I even slept better. Like,
yeah,
I was just like, yo, like maybe I needed this. So I ain't even tripping off of it. Long as I can pod and I'm trying to set up my stuff at work so I could stay after work and like probably edit and um I don't think that's all going to be necessary though, because knock on wood, hopefully everything gets fixed Monday, so I can get back to editing. I was editing on my phone, which that's another thing too. I've been using my phone a lot for everything.
yeah,
Bleeding edge, okay.
yeah, yeah.
So
We definitely do need a mental health reset. Lisa says, I mean, the world at the current state alone is getting to all of us, and then the things we all go through alone. Yeah, it's just like I said, it's just like, especially with world events, it's such a overwhelming thing. Just it's kind of hard not to be try to be desensitized to some tragedies and things that are going on in the world, but you can't really escape it because it's literally everywhere. And then, just like you said, the
mhm.
stuff that goes on in our own personal lives. January's been a tough month for me and her and stuff. It's just it's really been kind of hard, and I'm hopeful that things kind of will turn around as the year goes on. As we kind of get into December, not December. Oh my God, get into February. But I
He
mean,
already ready for it to be
I'm
done. Man,
yeah, I'm already counting for December 2025. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting year, man. And speaking of change, we can talk a little bit about Xbox and some of the things and Sony, and there's been a lot of change in the industry, in the game industry going around. I kind of want to, I guess we can jump off the cliff here and just talk a little bit about
Cold
Phil,
opening.
man. Papa
Oh,
Phil.
Phil, Big Phil.
Yeah, he came through last week and he appeared on two different um, podcasts and interviews, Gamertag Radio and a former IGN employee. His name's Destin Legary. They both had interviews with him. And shout out to Gamertag Radio. They actually just hit 20 years, I think, of podcasting for I think Xbox as well. Like they've been around. I think they are the original Xbox podcast. They've been around for a long, long time. So shout out to those guys over there, man. But yeah, we got a lot of interesting tidbits from Phil and some insight into what Xbox truly is going to be doing going forward. And even like right after that interview, I think it was yesterday, the day before, Forza Horizon 5 is coming to PlayStation in the spring
Mm,
of this year. And it just,
mm.
we've kind of been talking about it back and forth the last couple of episodes about how where we think the industry's going, and I'm gonna keep pushing this narrative because if you just listen to the people in charge, I always say, like, yeah, they don't always tell you the truth all the time, but a lot of the times they're really kind of forthright with the information if you just kind of ask. And one thing I wanted to talk about in particular, the guys on Gamertag Radio asked Phil about why would someone still want to buy an Xbox if things aren't going to necessarily be exclusive. And I have the quote up here. I'm just going to read part of it because it's kind of long, but he says, I want people to pick hardware based on the capabilities of the hardware and how it fits into the choices they want to make about how they want to play. And we want our hardware to win based on the hardware capabilities that we have. I think the difference that we've seen in the past 20 years, and I think this is good because I've come from building games, is it's really games first, not platform first. Most of the games you and I will talk about run across many different platforms, and those are the games that are having success. Those are the games that are at the top of the charts when you look at the most played, most successful games. And I want to build a platform that services those creators. That's our own hardware. I think it's fundamental to what Xbox is. In the position I'm in, I look at hardware as a critical part of what we do, but not trying to gatekeep the games off of other places for the benefit of us. Let's go build innovative hardware that people want to use to play, whether that's in their hands, whether that's on their television, or even other places. Phil, I mean, I don't necessarily
Oh,
disagree with
Phil.
him, man. Like,
First of all, I just want to say this. Phil, I don't, he's so media PR just, and I'm not saying it's like usually in a trolley like bad way,
mhm.
but he really be prepared for questions or either
I
he
think
have them like I don't know. He like I don't know. He answered the questions very well, and it just makes me believe that either he's been asked these questions a billion times, or he just know what people are thinking. Because
yeah, yeah,
I
that's what I was gonna
mean,
say. I think they just
he
kind of
was
know.
very. I mean, I respect the fact that Phil have his flaws. Everybody does, right?
Yeah.
The gaming industry is tough,
Hmm.
and for him to I give him praise because he doesn't duck the smoke.
No,
Like
no.
he doesn't duck interviews. Like if people want to talk to him, it did. You see, he didn't even filter the questions. He was just like, "Hey, like, look, like when dude said, why would people want an Xbox? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
to me, that's a very tough question. That be like that's one of the hard hitting questions because that's what everybody wants to know. Like, why the hell would I buy this system
right.
if it's going to be everywhere? I think that was a great question. I subscribe to that guy, by the way. I think
Yeah, Gamer Tag Radio. Yeah, they're awesome, man.
Gamertag Radio, you guys, that was a great interview. Just want to shout those guys out. Go check them guys out if you haven't already. But I do believe that the guy asked some pretty tough questions, and
Hmm.
I love the fact that Phil he didn't like stutter. He didn't like just kind of push the question to
Hmm.
the side. He answered it dead on. Like all the questions he answered spot on. And shout out to Phil for that, man. I know it could be tough. I know you go home at night, probably want to pull your hair out. It's probably not an easy job, but you could tell, you know, you could tell that he's really passionate about the product that he's
He
you
believes in
know.
what they're doing, man. He definitely
And
does.
yeah, you know what? I just wanted to say that this episode because yeah, you could. I really kind of like saw it in that interview. You can call me Glaze Captain, whatever, in the comments, Phil Glaze Boy or whatever. But I just wanted to take the time out to say that, like, because it was all the questions I would ask him,
Yeah.
and he didn't duck no smoke. Like he answered the questions, and I believe he gave good answers. But now, when it comes to what's going on as far as like with the moves with the games going to other platforms and stuff like that, I'm not gonna lie, it seems weird, it feels weird, not gonna lie.
So especially
But
certain ones, yes, that we'll bring up. Yes, 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 they
yeah,
will.
like Halo on PlayStation is like weird to me, like it's so weird. But it was one thing that I talked to you offline about that he said that summed up that whole interview. When that man said, "Hey, we're gonna put our stuff," basically, I'm paraphrasing here. He didn't say
Yeah.
it exactly like this, but I'm paraphrasing. He was just like, basically, we're gonna put our titles where they sell. Like, because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, the name of the game is we need to make money. It's costing more and more to make these titles. Um, and I feel like this is me. This is not Phil. Now, this is me speaking. Because I feel like if they don't do that, then they're gonna have to raise the price of games. Something's gonna have to happen
Yeah.
to where they're making more money. People need to pick their people really don't understand the business part. That's why when I talk to people online, it's more satirical. It's like satire almost, like the little what is it? Wars, console wars. Like I love like arguing with people because it's just fun. But then there's people who really believe in that in these console wars, and I'm like, dude, there is no console wars. Only the consumers making that up.
You know
Like,
what I think when it comes to that particular, like I do want to go back and touch on some stuff that Phil said, but what I've observed over the last couple of days, especially with some of the announcements that came out of Sony this week that we'll talk about later,
hmm
that people just want. I think for those who have no malicious intent behind wanting to have these discussions, I think people just want their favorite console, like to be the best. And I think that's just it comes down to kind of like this tribalistic. I almost kind of look at it like your favorite sports team. Like nobody can tell you anything about your favorite sports team, no matter what. Like I'm riding with this. When they do stupid stuff, you kind of you want to just yell to the ether about it, and I really feel like people are losing ground to stand on when it comes to that because of the decisions that are being made. And it's just like you said, like, because even in Destin's interview, he got asked a similar question about Xbox's identity. And I mean, if we look back on the last two console generations from 360 to now, yeah, their identity has changed. Like, I don't think it's far fetched to say that the old Xbox or the Xbox that we know is gone. It's dead and gone. Let's bury it. We've had the
hmm
funeral. This is the year that we're having a funeral for it. That they're moving in a totally new direction, because he was even asked about, like, are there red lines when it comes to
Oh
any
yeah.
titles being on other platforms? Because he was specifically asked about Starfield, and it's been what, close to 2 years now since Starfield has been out,
hmm
something like that. And I think that's a game that could use a little bit more of a boost. It could do well on another platform like PlayStation, and that's just kind of how they're looking at the situation, just like you said, right? Like, console sales or console game development in general is, ballooning at an alarming rate. Like the inflation on just like development costs is out of control to the point where this really wasn't a matter of this wasn't a matter of, okay, well, we just keep stuff exclusive so people will just buy our consoles on, our games on these consoles. I mean, that used to work back when you didn't have games that were cross platform or cross generation. Back when the Xbox, from Xbox One to 360, you didn't have games that could play on that you could play on both. It was either one or the other. So people were kind of forced to buy the next console, right? And that kind of supplemented the sales. But with the way that things are now, and you kind of have this cross, it's almost expected that games are cross generation now, especially considering how long gaming generations last.
Hmm.
People want that. People want to look at their investment. I know I do kind of like look at my investment in purchasing a game and like, okay, this is a game I'm probably going to play for a while. I already don't play as much as I used to, and if I'm Xbox and I'm looking at things like streaming sites, like platforms like Steam that seem to have figured things out a long time ago, why not mirror ourselves after that? Especially with the emergence of the handheld market. I mean, we haven't even touched. We've kind of talked just about like things going to PlayStation. There's going to be games that go over to the Switch too. I mean, there's been rumors and all these rumors about Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, going to be, it could be announced at the Switch Direct in April. Like we just, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. But I
And I
think
don't under. Oh no, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's like, I mean, where they're Xbox is at the point where they're just like, yeah, let's just. There shouldn't be any more speculation from people. There shouldn't be any more questions about it. I'm glad that he just kind of got it out there, and it's just like, so we don't have to worry about Elder Scrolls, Fable, Doom. We didn't really get to talk about the Xbox Direct, but a lot of pretty much all the games that they announced at the Direct are going to be multi-platform. I think all of them are actually. But
Hmm. Or it's a or is it what is it? A limited exclusivity?
yeah, like a time. Yeah, that's probably
Yeah,
something I
time
can see them doing.
exclusivity.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like, oh, well, it's going to come out here for like 6 months. Then we're going to bring it over here because people have to understand. And I want to give people benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
I just think people think console wars are fun. I want to give people benefit of the
some
doubt
some do. Yeah, like I said,
because,
it's tribal. People get real tribal
yeah,
over it, man. Like,
yeah, because if you just pigeonholing your game to one console and only a percentage of the people in America or whatever has that console, there's only so much money you can make.
yeah,
And then that's not a guarantee that everybody's going to buy that game on that console.
yeah,
Some people might be like, oh, this game that might not be for me. But then you may have somebody who has another console and be like, yo, I wish I could really play that game.
right.
So it just makes sense because you're making more money. It's really that simple. Like the more places you have your game, the more money you can possibly make. And with the cost of gaming, this is what people need to understand. The cost of gaming, the cost of these handhelds, because people, that's another thing. Like that's a whole nother topic with I feel like we're gonna come up on a new year, a new generation. It's gonna be even this year. I think it's gonna be like the year of the handheld games,
Oh,
bro.
mobile
I
gaming
think
is
like
coming
the
back in a
next,
big way. Yeah,
yeah, I think the next couple of years, because I looked up how many handhelds are out, and it blew my mind. I didn't know it was so many.
yeah, yeah. It's
Like
pretty crazy.
it's a nice handful. It's a nice handful of mobile. Like you got the freaking Steam Deck,
Steam Deck, the
the
ROG Ally,
Acer.
Lenovo.
Don't Nvidia have one, or they got one coming out? I think.
Yeah, I think they are. Let me see.
You got what? Throw Switch in there, obviously.
Right.
And to run these handhelds, it's going to cost to because you got to think, you know, even with like battery life and stuff like that, when you're running these powerful processors on these things, the new tech just to
Hmm.
have a battery that's going to last, like all this tech is going to cost money, man. So it's going to be very interesting. Then I love how he didn't dodge the question about Xbox the handheld. He was just like, hey, it's something we're working on. And it may be. If I'm a betting man, I think the next Xbox console probably going to be a handheld.
It's gonna be in the family of devices for sure, and that's why, like, I think that if we do see it, we'll probably get like a
Hmm.
teaser of it this year, maybe. I can see it coming out maybe next year, and that's something that's worth talking about too. Like,
Do you think it's going to replace like maybe what? If it's in the family, like does it replace like the S, or will it just be like a
I don't think so.
add-on to
I
the?
think we'll have three SKUs. I think it'll be you'll have your successor to the Series X. You know, the enthusiast Xboxes that I'll call it, like the one that
Mhm.
all the bells and whistles. You'll have whatever the successor to the Series S will be, which will probably be more powerful than the X, but not as powerful as the enthusiast box, of course. And then you'll have a mobile device, or the lower tier device could be, they could take a page out of Nintendo's book and have it to where you can dock it to your TV. I mean, because I remember a couple of years ago they were working on something that was like a dongle, kind of like a Fire Stick that you could plug into your TV. And I don't,
Yes.
and I think they stopped working on that. But I wouldn't imagine that they would have just completely have given up on that idea. I mean, look at kind of like their marketing with Xbox, this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox, like that whole conversation. And with the capabilities of xCloud, I think they're just more concerned about trying to get you into their ecosystem no matter what it takes.
Right.
And I don't see them really tackling things like phones, because I mean, we've seen the issues that have come up with Xbox and Apple the last couple of years, Apple and Epic with their, with Apple just not wanting stuff on their store that they can't police. So I don't think we'll get like a true mobile app on your phone. Like there's ways to get around it, of course, but not illegal ways or anything. But there's like a way you can. I think I'll tell you about it later. I can't remember exactly how it goes because I did it before on my old
Yeah.
phone, where you like take the browser, you can turn the browser into like an icon on your phone. And you can just play xCloud through that. And yeah, what's going on, Iron Bangle? How you doing? Yeah, that 30% Apple tax. It was that Bangle, and it was the fact that Apple has they want to take a look at everything that gets put on the store. So if they had it, if the Xbox app, which was essentially a portal to other games, they would have wanted
Right.
to, approve those games. Essentially, that it was just a whole thing, man. They were just so Apple's so petty about stuff, bro. But
Yeah, and they need to honestly, if
they're
anybody need to open up their gates, is Apple
yeah,
because they are
they're
so
they're petty as fuck.
uninnovating right now.
So
Yeah,
I
and
could
shout out
imagine.
to. Oh, go ahead.
No, I can imagine like them doing something along those lines. I could see three SKUs. Maybe the handheld launches on its own, because I remember people were talking like with the Series X and S and how kind of like confusing the naming was, and how people weren't sure which one to get. So I don't know if they're gonna want to deal with that again. So I could see the handheld maybe launching on its
Man,
own,
they
but
better do a X1, 2, and 3. There you go. Let's stop the shenanigans. That's one thing I
yeah.
always wanted to. If I ever interview, if I ever interview Phil, I'm be like, hey man, y'all got to cut that out because I think y'all
Nerds
kind
aren't
of
good at
ruined
naming stuff,
yourself.
man. Yeah.
I think they kind of ruined themselves slightly, just a little bit with the names because you had parents who were buying the wrong thing. That was a thing.
Yeah, it
Like,
was. It was a pretty big deal, and I could see them.
yeah,
I think they'll do that. I could see three SKUs, but I would think that the handheld, whatever it is, will probably launch separately. Like maybe they'll want to do like an event focused solely on the handheld, its capabilities and everything, and then we'll have like a full console reveal somewhere down the line. And I
I
and I even
really.
you really what?
Oh no, I was gonna say I really, really think that's. I think that's where they headed next console. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I think this next console it may be. I don't know. I'm gonna go handheld. I'm gonna go. I think that's gonna be their next move because it just makes so much sense with the play anywhere kind of theme that they have going.
yeah. True.
So to have your own device, it makes sense for that. And Xbox is just in a very I want to say people are gonna see people. They're gonna say that I'm just an Xbox fanboy or whatever, but I truly believe, and we talked about this off the mic. I think Xbox is getting ahead of the curve here. I think they know what's coming, and I think that they're trying to be proactive. I'll say that they're trying to be proactive in their approach to what's coming, and what's coming is PlayStation's going to start doing the same thing. Mark my words. I don't know what games, but I think PlayStation is going to follow suit eventually. Now, does that mean a God of War or something like that on the Xbox? I don't know.
No, I
But
don't
I
think so.
think
I don't think so.
I honestly think they will keep their big titles. I do believe that. The
Yeah.
big what, 3, 4 that they have, what, like Last of Us, God of War, and the couple
I
of
think
others. Like I can see an Uncharted, maybe. Like I can see Uncharted coming to Xbox or something like that. But it's about the sales, right? Like
yeah.
if these games start coming out and they're barely breaking even and stuff, you just really don't know the cost of business and what these companies are willing to do to turn a profit, like if God of War came out and it cost like a shit ton of money to create and then it just barely break even, or if it the thing is these games sell and the sales numbers look good, but then when you step into these offices they like, hey, we were expecting this to make more.
Well, you know what's funny about that? We can talk about that too. Bangle said they should just release Xbox OS and let everyone build the hardware for them. I think they're kind of going down that path with which one is it? It's either the Lenovo or the ROG Ally lineup of handhelds that I think they've been working with Xbox pretty closely. Like, because I think those are like Windows based. I don't think they're Linux based like Steam OS is. But
Well,
I could see them doing that. But I think they also want to stay invested into the hardware market, because if they don't, and we talked about this a couple episodes ago, that if they leave Sony and Nintendo to decide how hardware goes, it's gonna be bad for everybody. Because I don't want to say they're anti-consumer, but they don't think as much about the consumer as Xbox does in that regard. And I think
mhm.
Xbox needs to stay in the hardware business. And Phil kind of he even said as much. Like that's still a critical part of their business. And honestly, like I think if we get to the point where, let's say, exclusives just kind of evaporate from all major consoles, minus Nintendo, they're gonna stick. They're gonna 200 years from now, nothing will be on it. Mario
We're
is
not
gonna
having that.
only ever be on Nintendo consoles. Like I don't.
We don't get that plumber's crack on Xbox.
Yeah, that's never happening. But I could see consoles being more marketed, more for their features, kind of like phones are nowadays. Like, you kind of have a similar parity when it comes to Samsung and Apple devices as far as like technical specifications go, but they could be like, hey, we have this really cool feature that works only on Xbox, or I mean, look at like the PlayStation 5 controller and how that's innovative. And I think that kind of stuff will push hardware forward versus just we can, this box will render 8K 150 frames or 9 fucking 16K. Like I would much rather see innovation on that end versus uh just Xbox just kind of being hands off and just being a software publisher. Like I kind of hope they don't do that. And
Mm.
to go back to what you were saying, DC, like I could see. Let me say this. I think it's more likely they'll keep pursuing the PC angle before they ever turn around and look at Xbox, just because I
Oh, I didn't think of that.
like
I That's a valid point. I completely forgot about
I don't think they
PC.
really look at Xbox like as big of a contender as they used to. And because I was looking at
Hmm.
some sales numbers for some games before we got on, like, and I think a lot of them are accurate based off of that Insomniac breach that happened a few months ago. That Spider-Man 2 actually undersold by what their projections were, like a few million more than what it sold. I think it sold like 10 or 11 million, but they were looking for a little bit more on that. God of War sold pretty well. Last of Us 2 didn't sell as well as they wanted it to because of the leaks, I think, with the story and everything. Just kind of like some of the controversy around that. And even with them pivoting to PC, I think they still have a lot to learn. I mean, just like I told you, I was looking on Steam this morning. Spider-Man's 2, its reviews are mixed right now because people said the game's unoptimized. It's, the ray trace is not great. Like, there's a lot of like technical problems with the game itself. And I like Spider-Man 2 just fine. Like I think it's a fun game, but it's just another Spider-Man game in my eyes. Like I didn't walk away playing Spider-Man 2 like blown away like I did the first game. You know what I mean? Like So I think PlayStation has their own hurdles that they need to overcome, and I mean we can kind of talk about it. We can just go ahead and jump into that too. But they announced this
Yeah.
week that they have like a lot of shakeup with their management, the C level people, a lot of
Ooh,
shakeup through the entire
shaking and
company.
baking.
Yeah, what's his name? Hiroki Totoki's taking over as the president and CEO of the Sony Group Corporation. Hideaki
Somebody's.
Nishino, he is now the new CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, or SIE, which is basically that oversees the PlayStation division. That was Herman
Hmm.
Holst, but he's sticking around and being the CEO of the studio business group. So he's like in charge of productions, content development, media adaptations, and things like that, which is really telling, I think, because I don't think it's talked about enough this generation about how many missteps they've made as a company, in my opinion. We
Mm.
we look at Sony as this monolith in the industry. They only produce 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s. But I mean, the first 4 or 5 years, like Sony's kind of been tripping up, man.
Yeah.
Like they've been,
Can we start with game live service games?
yeah. I think this was a big reaction to that. If I'm being quite honest, like you look at all
Yeah, I
the,
mean, even during the interview that I listened to, the couple of interviews that I listened to from various people,
Mhm.
that seems to be one of the sources of the rearrangement.
Yeah.
There were certain people who were pretty much pushing and relying on a few like these live service games to bring in the money. And I think once Concord, which was a big, big, like people don't understand they how much money they put, like 400 million
Yeah,
into that
a
game.
few $100 million mistake that I am almost certain
I
that
need y'all
someone
to
got
hear
fired.
that.
A few $100 million.
When I lose a lottery ticket, I cry at night. Okay. I'm talking about they just wasted so much money.
Yeah.
And in turn, you got to think how many lives at the end of the day that affects.
Yeah,
Like
I mean the
people, they probably
studio
had
got closed
to,
down for it and everything too. So
yeah, man, that was in Concord. I mean, I would like to have a side episode just to talk about Concord. Like that, what happened to that game was like insane. And to be honest with you, I didn't think the game was that bad. But then I'm trying to figure out, where did this 400 million come from?
development,
What did
man.
they?
Live service games are expensive. I mean, you look at how much they
I
paid for
see.
Bungie. They paid what, 4 billion for Bungie. That was like all the IPs
Ooh.
that they were working on, and
So
look
are
at,
they? I mean, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, if it hits, I guess it is.
yeah, but the investment, just is it there for live service, and that's something that we've talked about, right? And they
Everybody.
and they haven't all been bad. I mean, they've done good things with Helldivers 2. That's published by Sony, and they've been
Mhm.
working with Arrowhead, and that game's still relatively popular. We've been playing it. We were playing it for the last month or so, and I think
Right.
it's been fun to play. But I think where Sony messed up, and I think just looking at the timeline of releases from certain studios to what they had, certain studio. I mean, you had the studio that made Days Gone working on us, Studio Bend working on a live service game. You had Blue Point, which is like your premier remake remaster studio, working on a God of War live action game, which I still think is a terrible idea. Just personally, me personally, but and I
Yeah.
mean, and I guess you could say Gran Turismo 7 is a live service game as well, kind of in the same vein as Horizon, and how that's still, the Gran Turismo community, is still pretty prevalent, and that game sold very well from what I understand. But it just goes back to numbers, man. Like, Sony's probably looking at this whole problem that everyone in the industry is like, how can we keep sustained revenue while also funding new projects and new IPs? And
It
I'm
got to be hell.
and I'm sure they probably regret buying Bungie, if I'm being quite honest. I mean, that studio is not only a former shell of itself, but you look at the direction that they took the Destiny franchise in, and I think something like 90% of the player base is gone, like not playing the game according to Steam charts, which is just I mean, we stopped
Yeah,
playing a
man.
few years ago, but to see that game from that franchise from where it was to where it is now is really really sad. I mean, there's still of course
Just
people that still
wash,
play
rinse,
it,
and
but
repeat. It's wash, rinse, and repeat. Like, I don't. This is not an attack toward the developers because I really
no,
want to get in their mind because it seems like they kind of got this little formula, and I don't know if it was because time restraints or it seemed like they didn't want to deviate from the formula that they had, even including like, weekly this, do that, collect this, raid. Like that seems to be the formula that they continue to use. And I'm speaking for myself here. I just got tired of it. Like it was like, oh, we got this new
yeah,
expansion, or we got this, or we got this, but in the end of it, like, once the dust clears, it was kind of like the same thing. It was like, oh, do your weeklies, do your dailies. Oh, get prepared, max out your guns or weapons, and get prepared for the raid. Like they never kind of broke out of that bubble to me, and like that's why I stopped playing it because like they had like events that were fun. Like I really enjoyed the Iron Banner and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like I was kind of looking for a little bit more, even trials. Like the idea of trials and just making it tough. Like I like that challenge of you got to win a certain amount of matches before you get rewarded. Like it wasn't holding your hand. Like if they could have created like more events suited for a different kind of person and just like because raids were not fun to me. They wasn't. Raids were not fun at all. Like I've never besides the probably first raid we played together, but after that they all just seemed tedious and just not fun and
Do
you
you
gotta
think
put
that's
your big
more
toe
so?
on.
Do you think that's more so of the group of people we were playing with, or just like the experience of playing through the raids themselves? I'm just curious.
It was the like because I'm so used like the group of people that we play with, we pretty much all been playing games together for quite some while. So we all
Mhm.
have our quirks. We all have little things that we do. We have things that we do where we want to throw shit at each other. Like we all know each other. Like
Yeah,
so that wasn't really a problem with me. It was more or less the game. It was the setup.
sure.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
'cause, I
get it.
mean, it could get frustrating even when you're playing with your friends. And it's been times where we all done got frustrated at each other, whatever the case may be. We'll turn the game off. We'll go play Call of Duty something, and then we'll be good. But the game itself, the mechanics of it, to me, it just didn't keep my interest, to be honest. Like the first couple of raids, I was like, okay, this is kind of dope. It's a little challenging, you know what I'm saying? But then I say after about a couple of raids, I was just like, and then it just got to the point where I just didn't care because it was like the same meta, right? You got to have this specific gun, and it got to be max to this, and if you don't have wolf pack rounds, you're a piece of shit, and blah blah blah,
Oh,
and nobody wants to play
Galahorn.
with you. And yeah, it just was like the whole meta just
um,
behind it. Me personally, I was just kind of over it, bro. I was just like,
that's
I
fair.
don't know.
And I just look back and I kind of wish they would have stuck with making just larger DLCs. Like
Hmm.
even if they would have moved away from doing, because they what was it like 4 years, 2 a year they were doing at once. Like I would have loved for them to kind of keep that
Hey, but they made their
schedule.
10-year mark though.
They did. They survived in that whole 10-year plan that they laid out
I
for
thought that when they
Activision, and
said that, I thought they was on crack. I was like, "What? Y'all trying
yeah.
to make a 10-year game?
I
Like,
mean, it's
why?"
like the story they were trying to tell is over. I watched someone play through the story of the last DLC. Was it wasn't Lightfall, or maybe that was Lightfall,
I'm
I
gonna be
think.
honest with you, bro. I'm gonna be 1,000% honest with you. I can't tell you what the hell Destiny's about. All I know is somebody flicked
No,
the light switch.
they got better about storytelling. It's at least as far as like main mission stuff goes. Like Destiny actually has some really cool lore and characters.
I believe it do, but I think
And
they could have did better explaining the lore. Like, well, I will say this: in the beginning, it was a little rough.
it was, yeah, for sure.
it was a little rough in the beginning, but they did get a slightly better as you progress. Because I have gone back and I've YouTubed. I've watched. There's one specific YouTube, and it is like 4 to 5 hours long.
My name is Bife. Yeah, you talking about Bife? Yeah, he's a
It
great
might
YouTuber.
be him,
Hmm.
and I watched the whole thing just to get an understanding of Destiny's lore, and I left it more confused than ever. But I love the fact that it has such a rich story, and it kind of makes me want another Destiny game, but in that universe. Don't continue. Like, we
You
don't need like
know,
a Destiny 3. I would love another game in that universe.
if we're being honest, man, I think it is over for Destiny as a franchise. I think with them moving teams from Destiny to like other parts of Sony, like I think they're just chopping they're just chopping Bungie up at this point, and I don't really have a lot of faith in Marathon. Whenever that comes out, whenever we see that game, is still dated or slated for this year. Like I would be shocked if we see anything from
What?
that game yet. It's still supposed to come
Oh
out this year.
no.
You
I'm gonna
know,
keep my thoughts to myself. They're
we
not
haven't
positive.
we
But
haven't gotten any updates from that game. I think in 2 years since they showed that teaser trailer, and
yeah.
there's been like a mass exodus of layoffs from Bungie. There's been people leaving the company. It's just been so much like turbulent change that I really don't know where they go from, like just Bungie as a whole. But Sony itself, I think they've realized that they need to continue to do the things that they were great at. But I don't know how sustainable that's going to be either. With single player games and how somebody will typically, outside of like GTA, somebody will typically only buy like a story based game once, right? Like I was texting
Yeah.
our friend Era yesterday, and I was telling him that Spider-Man 2 came out on PC. I didn't know he had already purchased it on PS5, and he was essentially, like, I'm not gonna rebuy it. Like, it's pointless, right? Like, and
Yeah.
it's things like that, in my opinion, gives Xbox the advantage over a company like Sony. Because if you're in Xbox's, ecosystem, I can download a game on Game Pass, I can play it on PC, and then I can go play it on Xbox. I can go into my bedroom and play that same game. And
Right.
I don't know where Sony can continue to go. You know, even with the amount of IP that they have, that they probably haven't used, a lot of things that people are very fond of. They continue to kind of push, just like you said. Like I'm curious about what some of their studios are working on. Like even Insomniac, one of the founders left recently, Ted Price just recently left the company, and some of
Ooh.
their developers, some of their senior development staff is gone. And like I don't kind of know. I'm kind of scared for the Wolverine game. Like so much of that game has been leaked out of that breach is kind of insane. Like that's still supposed to be slated for this year, but I doubt that comes out this year either.
Ooh,
You know,
man. They gotta, bro, it's gonna be if these games drop when they drop, it's gonna be a heavy year.
it is. I mean, if like, and I just don't see it
If they were
happening.
smart, I would move Wolverine back.
I don't think Wolverine's coming out this year. I would be shocked if it does. I mean, you still got
Mm,
Ghost of Yotei that's supposed to come out, and a couple
mm.
of other games that they have in their
Don't forget
portfolio.
GTA.
Yeah, GTA is coming out this year, 100%. But you look at the things that Sony does well, that they'll usually like supplement their first party lineup with exclusive third party deals. But even that's starting to kind of like, even companies like Square Enix, who's been famous for just, I mean, like for the Final Fantasy VII remake series, they're like,
Right.
hey, that didn't sell as great as we wanted it to on PlayStation.
And people were so surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy 16, same deal, didn't hit the numbers and benchmarks that they wanted. And now Square Enix is probably looking at companies like Capcom and how successful they've been, not keeping
Mhm.
stuff exclusive. I mean, Street Fighter 6, you got Resident Evil 4 remake, you got what else is coming out soon? Gosh, man, Onimusha is coming out very soon for them. Like, Capcom's been doing very well for themselves over the last couple of years, and I don't know if PlayStation is in the position that they can continue to keep up this walled garden. I mean, I mean, they've been willing to let stuff come over from Xbox, but I just don't see a world where they're like, all right, we'll give you God of War if you give us Halo, or we'll give you Last of Us if you give us Gears. You know, I just don't see that happening. Just something in my brain just tells me that they're just not gonna want to concede that, and it kind of looks to them like to the community that they've lost, right? Because just like you said, like people have these particular feelings about console wars, and you know, I'm very curious about how the PS5 Pro selling. Once again, nobody's talking about it. Nobody,
According to what I heard, yeah,
not as great as
it's
they
not
want.
doing. Yeah, it's not doing as well as they want at all. And I just think that the whole mid console thing,
It was a
I
mistake.
think,
I think it was a mistake.
yeah, I think it was a mistake this go around because I feel like COVID threw everything off.
Yeah, and honestly, man, like if we look back on this generation, if we get consoles next year or the year after, people are gonna kind of look at this generation like this kind of
A
sucked.
dud.
Yeah, this was a waste, and I'm
Yeah,
inclined to
this.
agree. Outside of a
Yeah,
very
I was
few
kind of leaning
games.
toward that myself. I was actually talking to someone the other day, and I was just like, I felt like I didn't need this. I constantly
Yeah.
go over in my head if I should give away my PlayStation and Xbox. I really do think about just going outside one day
Just giving it to some
and just
random.
randomly just park at a Walmart or something. And just, hey, you want an Xbox?
Yeah,
Like here. I just think like,
yeah.
don't be surprised like if Christmas come around and I just give these shits away.
I don't blame you, especially if we get announcements like people are thinking we're supposed to in the next 12 to 18 months. Like if we get an announcement for a PS6 or because hold on, let's do some research. When did the PS4 Pro get announced? I know it was like a few years after the PS4 Pro release date. Let's see when it was released. It's released in 2016. So
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to be 4 years until we get a PS6 from the PS5 Pro. I just don't see that happening. And I go back to what I was saying before. These games are going to be cross the generation. They typically will be. Like you'll get a new, whatever Naughty Dog's next game is, right? Like that'll probably be cross gen from PS5 to 6. That's how Last of Us 2 was. It came out what
Hmm.
2019. It was cross gen. You could play it. You just had to pay that what $10 they made you pay to download it on PS5, which was ridiculous. But and then they was like, hey, we have an updated version for PS5. It gives you an extra 12 frames, and the game looks largely the same. I literally turned it on a couple of days ago just because I was curious. I was like, I wonder how this game actually looks on PS5, but it doesn't. It looks largely the same to me. I just
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I feel like this was just
Even with
a
the upscaling and everything that they tried to like show off,
yeah.
it wasn't too much of a difference for me.
It's not.
Maybe I just got trash eyes. I don't know. Like it just, I was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it made sense for people to get the Pro who didn't have a PlayStation.
Yeah, if you
Like
were somebody who were going from like a PS4 to this generation, I would have bought a Pro if I had the money. And then that's another thing you got to think about. Like, and I think this is what, just like you said before we got on the podcast, is that Xbox is looking farther into the future, in my opinion, because they're building up
hmm
services now, so they don't have to do this when things turn around. I mean, it took Sony what a few years ago until they launched PlayStation Pro Plus or PlayStation Plus to kind of mirror Game Pass,
hmm
and you don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I know there's people that use it. A lot of our friends use it, actually, like David and Dre, and they say there's a lot of good stuff on that. But what do you hear more out in the gaming ethos? People talking about Game Pass. You hear more people talk
right.
about that than PlayStation Plus. And I think that's going to be another. It's going to be another situation with Sony. It was like, oh, here's a PS6. It has, instead of your controller vibrating, the console vibrates or something stupid. I don't know, but I don't
It
fucking know.
vibrates right off the
Yeah,
table.
right. It's shit. You got to save the console while you're in the middle of a gunfight in Last of Us or something. I don't know, but but
Hey man,
I just
it's gonna be fun to watch and report. That's all I know.
yeah
Each year that pass, the industry is gonna get. It's gonna be. It's going to be a lot.
It's gonna be more
There's
about
going to be a
features,
lot of
man.
changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes coming, and like I said, people are gonna call me whatever. I don't care. I just think, and I mean, we do call Xbox out on their shit when they're messing up. We have. Go watch the older episodes. We didn't cut them no slack on certain issues, but as far as this issue go, I do think that they're thinking 3, 4 steps ahead. I think they're trying to get ahead of the industry curve and what I'm telling you, there's people that's 1,000 times smarter than us that sits in a
Oh, for
room
sure, yeah.
and think about these things. And I'm sure Phil is in there. And man, I would just love to be a fly on that wall. I would just love to get invited to. Yeah, that's a goal of mine. That's long term
Let me
goal.
sit in that
I
boardroom
do.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to just like go in there with Phil and just like, what do y'all talk about in here? They probably
Yeah.
can't give up too much sauce, but I think it'll be a very fun experience because people essentially, man, when it comes down to it, and I just came from my job annual meeting, and I actually enjoy going to these annual meetings because I do enjoy the business side of any company, really. Like I could look up any company and be like, how does this work?
Yeah.
Like what is like at the end of the day, how does this company function? How does it stay around? Like these things are important, and I feel like with Xbox and Sony as well, all these companies, Nintendo, whoever, like they're all trying to maximize their profits. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And getting out good product is one of the ways that they're going to do that. And exclusivity is probably going to hold them back in some ways, but they're trying to figure it all out. Like it's very just if you
Yeah.
touch one domino, one fall. Like it's a cause and effect. Like you got to just play with it and see what you can get out of it. It's very interesting. I could nerd out
I
and talk
think
about this
I
shit
think Forza is
all
gonna
day.
sell really well on PlayStation too. That's just my theory. I think it's gonna.
Even with Gran Turismo
Yeah. I
on
think.
there.
Yeah. 100%. I think. I
Oh
think.
no, because they got Horizon too, and
Yeah.
Horizon's more
Forza
like
Horizon 5
arcade.
is the one that's coming this spring.
Oh, it's Horizon.
Yeah, it's Horizon 5.
Oh yeah, it's gonna do good. Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's just
You're
gonna
right.
do
You're right.
gangbusters. Like, I think
Yeah, you're
people
right.
kind of look at, and we talked about it when Horizon 5 came out, like how it just seems to be the Forza series in general seems to kind of be the quote unquote premier racing sim now. Like, I'm not saying that GCR7 is bad or anything, but we get a Gran Turismo once every like 5-6 years at this point, and
And they don't have an arcade version.
yeah,
That's the thing.
and it's not
Like
as
Horizon, the
friendly.
fact
Yeah,
the best thing they could have done with that Horizon, I mean, Forza series was create Horizon.
yeah.
Because it gave people like, hey, because it's still if you play Horizon, you still can kind of do things to your car and
You can make
that
it more sim with some of the
yeah, yeah,
options too.
yeah. You
Yeah,
could do or you could just kind of like race around and like one thing that I think people slept on with Horizon, the DLC was really good. The mountain DLC where you go up in the snow
oh
and
yeah, that was fire. Yeah.
that was really, really, really
Mhm.
good. Like if you're a car enthusiast, if you love racing games, race sims, that DLC was great. They have the little Lego thing that they always do. They have like events that go on. Like if you're deep into the Horizon culture, like there's a lot of stuff that they put into them games that will kind of keep you like coming back from time to time.
Yeah.
And yeah, Horizon's going to do good. I was thinking about just regular Forza because I'm like,
Mm-mm. They announced
two
they
sim
announced Horizon
racers
5,
is
yeah, which I think is a good move. I don't.
no, they're
I
gonna they're gonna
I
yeah,
think
it's
I
gonna
think whatever the next Horizon is, like the main line, will probably hit PlayStation as well. And I mean
game of the year.
that just kind of begs the question too. Like, Elder Scrolls 6 obviously is going to be multi-platform. A lot of these bigger franchises, Gears, E Day. If Gears Remastered comes to PlayStation, E Day is definitely going to be multi-platform, 100%. Like, there's just no
Mm.
like there shouldn't be any more questions about this stuff. People shouldn't be like, well, will this come? Like, I don't even think they're gonna do timed exclusivity. Honestly, I don't even see that happening. I'd be shocked if well, maybe some games, but I would just be shocked if they just don't open the floodgates and be like everything's everywhere day one. So we'll see,
Nice.
guys. We'll see. But it's good to be
Yeah, we
back, man.
definitely It's definitely good to be back on my telephone. A. Hopefully, this be the last time.
Yeah, hopefully next
But the
week we'll
industry
be back to regularly scheduled programming.
back, and then y'all get to see my real face and not this Ninja Turtle face. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
should have made like a bandana. I should have put a bandana on my face.
Oh, that'll be
Yeah.
funny.
But to
Oh
all the
man.
audio listeners who's going to listen to this, we're definitely going to get back on track. Make sure that these audio experiences is up on the podcast, Spotify side as well. Just bear with us. You guys are great. You're awesome from sticking around. People been hitting me up on Twitter asking when we're going to come back. Um, yeah,
We back,
we're
baby.
gonna. Well, yeah, we're back by any means necessary. Even if I had to sit outside holding an antenna with a foil hat on, we were going to get it done today. So it feels great to be back. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. You go first.
Oh
I'm supposed
man,
to be
you're
the
good, man.
outro.
But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out for episode 219 of the Super Weapon Podcast, man. 219 episodes. That's crazy. Every time I say it out loud, it's just fucking crazy to me. We appreciate you guys. We will be back next week. Hopefully, once again, DC's internet is back to fully functioning.
Monday,
You
knock
know,
on wood. They're coming
we're
Monday.
gonna
This
keep
Monday.
him, in your, keep your well wishes for him and everything, man. And you know, if you guys are going through stuff in life, man, just know it's gonna get better, man. It's a brand new month. You know, let's bring some positive energy into February and onward into 2025, man. I don't really have a
Yes.
whole lot. I appreciate you guys for hanging out. You guys can find me everywhere. Darius the Artist on Twitter. Darius the Artist where he's a 3DC. Take us home.
Well, before I take you guys home, I just want to run off a random list of things that I've been doing since I haven't had the internet. I think this is quite fun, so I'm going to share it. I went pants shopping. I got some pants. I'm happy about my
Pants
pants.
shopping. The true adulting at its
Yes, I got
finest.
some pants. I had a blast with my pants shopping because if you know me, y'all know the struggle my wide ass go through trying to find a good pair of jeans. You know what? I've been parlaying into some of my single player games. I'm at the end of Cyberpunk yet again on the hardest difficulty level, fighting Adam Smasher, and oh my god, it's such a bitch ass fight. I don't know if I'm going to be able to beat him on the hardest difficulty level because it's ridiculously hard. And yeah, so I've been playing my single player games. I've been playing a little bit of Spider Man. What else I've been playing? Chernobyl. What is it? Stalker. I've been getting some Stalker in. You know, since I ain't got no internet, I've been forced to play my single player games. And also, I've went back and started watching all the Marvel movies that I missed. And I would love to have a side pod just so we can talk about the damnation of Thor and why they did him so dirty. I would love to do that with you one day
Yeah, that's fine. We could do that.
because because I really loved Thor 1 and 2 now that I went back and watched it. The villains were a little ass. They were a little weak, but
Much better character in the
Thor and
comics.
then the story Thor and yeah, Thor and Loki. And I was telling my friend Eve, she's a big big comic book nerd. We talk about it at work all the time. Um I was telling her how I see the charm in Loki. I see why everybody likes Loki. After watching 1 and 2, then I'm about to watch Loki, the actual show. I get it. I get it. I've missed a lot of stuff. Today I'm watching Spider-Man. I'm watching all the Spider-Mans. The newer ones. I saw the old ones with Toby Maguire. I saw those. I'm watching all the new ones. I haven't seen those with what's our buddy name? Holland. Tim Holland.
Tom
I'm
Holland.
telling you, I'm watching Tom Holland. My bad. Zendaya's an asshole. I'm just gonna throw that out there. That's how I feel. And those are just a couple of things that I've been doing. I'm not gonna go through the whole list. We'll talk about it on like some B-roll or on Twitter or some shit. I've been doing a lot of things, man. Just recentering my circle. And one last thing before we get up out of here, I just want to say, rest in peace to the multiverse, which was multiverses.
Oh, let's
Uh,
save that for next week. I got a lot to say about that.
Oh
I
no!
do.
I'm just saying RIP. We can talk about it next
I
week.
do definitely want to talk about multiverses and its
And I told people.
failure.
Uh, oh my god! It went on a 6-month hiatus. What did they think was going to happen? But anyway, we'll talk about that next week. But that's all I got, man. Everybody, just stay up. The world seems like it's getting a little bit crazy, but hopefully this is a place where you come to and kind of get your mind off things, and we can talk about video games and just put a smile on your face, and just rest in peace to the people who lost their lives in both of these bizarre um plane crashes in Philadelphia and in DC. My heart goes out to the families that lost loved ones in those crazy incidents, man. Just be safe out here. Love on yourself. Love your loved ones. Come love us. We'll love you. And that's all I got, man.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for hanging out, and that's gonna be the end of the episode. We'll see you later. Peace.
I bought some hay.